Hey YouTubers, it's Vonse coming at you with another do-it-yourself tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to make a cute denim skirt. Now, as far as your material goes, you need something that has a stretch width-wise. It doesn't have to be a real wide stretch like lycra or swimsuit material, but it has to have a moderate stretch so you can pull it on over your hips. As far as the length does not have to stretch at all. Mine doesn't stretch, but it has to have a stretch across the body. That's pretty much the basics of the material. I'm probably going to also list this material in my Etsy shop. If you want to buy this particular material, you can go there. I'm going to make a listing for that. Okay, what you're going to need to take your tape measure around the widest part of your bottom, which in most people's cases is their hips. Mine is a 40. Once you get that width measurement, add 1 inch. Yeah, 1 inch. Add a half of inch to it, because that's going to be your seam, a half-inch seam. Then you're going to do your length. Go by wherever you wear your pants. It doesn't have to be your true waist unless you wear them at your true waist. Measure that down as far as you want it to go. In my case, I'm short. I like my stuff above my knees, so I'm going to do it at an 18. Take the 18 inches, which is going to be, for example, mine. Add 1 inch for the hem. Add 2 inches at the top for the casing that you're going to thread your elastic through. I'm going to do that now. It's a good idea to have a straight edge, something with a straight edge, a long ruler, or something that you can make your markings so that your skirt will be precise. Oh, I also meant to note that you're going to have your fabric folded to the right sides together. Have it folded so that you can mark from the edge. So, because I'm going to do a 40 plus my half inch, 40 and a half, I'm going to do a 20 and 1/4 because it's double. Make your marking there. Now go down as far as you want your length to go, and make sure that you add the inch for the hem and the 2 inches at the top for the casing. So in my case, I want my skirt to be an 18 inch. I'm going to do it at a 21 inch. Now I'll take my straight edge ruler, line up the marks. I also have a cutting board, and this makes it a lot easier to make sure your marks are straight. So if you don't have one, you can still improvise, but it will be a good idea if you plan on sewing to get something with, squares and markings on it so that you're able to match everything up properly. Okay, you're going to cut it out. Okay, and what you're left with pretty much is a square. What you're going to do is go to your sewing machine, sew a ½ inch seam allowance. The seam is going to become the back of the skirt because we cut it on the fold, so it's going to be open. The seam will run right down the back. And I'll be right back to tell you guys the next steps. Okay, once you sew your ½ inch seam, that's going to actually be your back seam, flip your skirt over. You're going to make a hem on one side. It's a box pretty much, so it doesn't matter which side. Make a hem. What you're going to do is you're going to fold about a ½ inch, and then you're going to fold again. You're going to sew along, top stitch along at the hem. Then you're going to flip in 2 inches on the top. You can leave a raw edge if you like, or you can iron down the 2 inches and then flip a small amount, maybe a ¼ inch, and flip down and sew. Make sure when you get to the seam, where's my seam? Once you get to the seam, As you sew around, just leave about an inch, inch and a half gap so that you can take your elastic and thread it through. Once you thread it through, close your elastic up, maybe sew it along the two raw edges, and then finish off your seam. And I'll be back with the results. I also meant to note that as far as your elastic goes, when you're threading it through, use a safety pin. It's easier, actually you won't get it through without one. Take a safety pin through the gap that you left when you were sewing the seam. Put the elastic and thread it through with just keep working the safety pin until you get all the way around to the other side. Then you connect the two together. Once it's inside the skirt, you sew about maybe a half an inch in on each elastic piece, so it'll be a circle, and then you'll finish the seam off. Now make sure, be very careful to make sure that your elastic isn't twisted when you put the two sides together, because then you're going to have a gap, like a twist inside of your seam. It won't lay flat. So make sure that you just work with it until it's both sides. Make sure you just go around the skirt like this, just to make sure that none of it is twisted. Then make sure you sew it down. Also, what you may want to do is try on, even though say your waist is a 30, don't make your elastic a 30 and then thread it around, because it's going to have a little stretch. It's probably going to need to be like a 28 if your waist is a 30. So try it on before you sew it up. Try it on to see how you like the fit before you sew the elastic pieces together, and you should be fine.